The Rosen Report, sports like never before. Brought to you by Gooch Live and Paramount Sports Management. Here's Rosie.
Good afternoon on this Tuesday, kind of dreary day in Toronto, but we had a really good day yesterday. It was trade deadline day. We had a 3-hour show with Gooch and Jordan and Val and James and Ryan and oh my God, we had a lot of guys on. I don't want to forget, but there's probably too many to mention right now. But I'm really excited about today's show. We have Gene Ubriaco. Gene was going to be on last week, but we had some technical difficulties. As everybody knows, I'm not the most technically inclined guy. Gene has been around 8 decades, which is 80. He's been around a long time in this great game of hockey. We're going to tell some stories. We have some mutual interest with some great people in hockey. It should be a real good show. I'm so interested. Anytime I get a chance to speak to somebody that, first of all, I respect, but knows the game and has been around the game for a long time, it's a huge honor for me. I was on with him and Barry Shelley's show, which was a lot of fun for me. But first, as always, it is Rosie's Rant. Today is going to be just something nice. I'm not going to rant on anybody. I'm not going to get mad at bicyclists or get political. Today is my son, my middle child, my son's 35th birthday, Sam Rosen. I just want to say to Sam, happy 35th birthday. He's an incredible young man. I am so proud to be his father. He has 2 sisters, an older and younger. But on this day, 35 years ago, it's actually funny because there was a 3 out of 5 in 1986 on April 13th. The Chicago Blackhawks, my favorite team, and Gene knows a lot about the Blackhawks. They were down 2-0 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs beat them on April 13th, 86 to knock them out of the playoffs 3 straight. And then 2 hours later, my son was born, which salvaged the 3 straight losses to for the Hawks to get knocked out of the 86 playoffs. But my son was born a few hours later, Sam Rosen, which saved the sadness of the Hawks getting knocked out in 86. So to my son, happy birthday. Have a great and safe 35th birthday. And now let's start it. The Rosen Report with Gene Ubriaco. Jordan, bring Gene up.
Hi.
Hey, Gene, how are you?
I'm good. Real good. We're having a nice day here in Illinois.
Beautiful. Well, it's great to have you on. I loved being on Barry's show when you came on, and I learned a ton. I have an enormous amount of respect for you. So why don't we tell all the viewers that don't know, let us know a little bit about the history. And I know it'd probably take a few hours to know the entire history. Let us know the Cole's Notes versions of Gene Ubriaco's career.
Yeah, Hubbard's Digest. It's a little better.
There you go.
Well, I'm from Sault Ste. Marie and played all my youth hockey there. And then I played with Juvenile Dorans. And at that time, we won the All-Ontario Juvenile Championship. I was 15 years old at the time, and that pretty well started me on my hockey trek. I was put on negotiation list by St. Catherine's Teepees, and but my dad wanted me to go to school, and St. Mike's had a little bit of an in there. Toronto St. Mike's said if you wanted to go to school, and whoever put you on their list, you could write a letter and tell them that you wanted to go to school. And then what they did is St. Catherine's Teepees, which kind of slipped the rest of my career because I was traded before I left home. I was traded to St. Mike's by St. Catherine's, which was the Chicago Blackhawks. Rudy Pillis was the coach, and right. Stan Kita and Chico Mackey, Bobby Hall, all these guys were there. And I go to St. Mike's and the Toronto Maple Leafs And you know, they had Toronto Marlies and the Toronto St. Mike's at the time. And there I am at school, and I joined Frank College. Dave Keon was there at the time. The Draper boys. Well, anyway, I went there, and I was there for 4 years. I ended up in my last year going to Rosen College, and played with the majors. And then I was asked to sign a C form. And I look back now, I think I made a little bit of a mistake because I did not sign the C form, and offered me probably more money than some of the people. I won't even say because it would be ridiculous. But at the time, I had just had a pretty good year. I played 2 years. Frank Mahovich was my centerman. I scored almost 30 goals, and Frank won the scoring. It was like the next Beliveau, and I was fortunate enough to play with him. Him and a fellow named Bobby Boucher. I think Frank scored 52 goals. Bobby scored over 40, and then I pitched in with about 28. And so then they asked me to sign the C form. And I made a mistake because I turned them down, and they offered probably more money than a lot of guys. But at that time, they tell you how much you were going to make your first 2 years in professional hockey. And I don't know why I didn't sign it now that I think of it, but because it didn't matter. They owned my rights anyway because they had a working agreement with Toronto St. Mike's. So when I became 20, they shipped me out, and I went to training camp, I believe, and then I put me in New Westminster Royals, and my centerman at that time in the Western Hockey League. I was 19 yet because I didn't turn 20 until December. My birthday's in December. Played with Max McGrath. The coach was Hal Lako. And if you look at that 58 team in the Western Hockey League, there were quite a few guys that are very, very well known. Of course, Max was at the end of his career. He was 39 years old. I was 19. And then from there, I came back east. Toronto then at that point put me in. First, I went into Sudbury with the Wolves, and I think Keon came there and played his first year in pro hockey, or he came in the playoffs of the year that we were in the playoffs. And then from then I went to Rochester, went to Pittsburgh Hornets, back to Rochester. So for 5 years, I was with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they ping-ponged me all over the place. Everybody that liked a small guy that could score a few goals, wear a helmet, they put me there. So anyway, from then I went to Hershey. I asked to be traded to Hershey because at the time, Hershey was the only team that you could make any money with in the American League. And I just got married. I had 38 goals and then 40 goals. I scored 42 goals, and I had 80 goals. And the draft came up for the NHL and the draft of players from the American League. And because I asked to be traded. Punch Imlach, he traded me, and I thanked him very much because I ended up making more money. And but little did I know, the next year or next 4 years later, they would have an expansion draft, and I wouldn't be in it because I was owned by the Hershey Bears. So what happened is I went to the draft as a reporter. I was working at a television station and radio station, and they asked me to go down to the draft. And you'll love this because around noon they broke off after about 3 rounds, and I had managers come up to me that I had known, Jack Riley, different people came up to me and asked me, what do you think of the fellows we drafted? Because I played against them in the American League. And I couldn't be drafted. And most guys that were being drafted were scored maybe 8 goals, 10 goals, but they were 20-year-olds. And I was older, obviously, at that time. And so they're asking me about them. And then I found out from a few teams that if I was available, they would like to have me. So I back to Hershey. I asked for I think I asked for $14,000. I think Willie Marshall had made 13. I think that's the highest they ever paid a player. And then they waited. And Frank Mathers, who was a great guy, one of the best people I've ever met in the game, obliged called me over just before, about 2 days before the NHL opened, and the Pittsburgh Penguins traded for the fellow that I played center with. His name was Jeannot, not Gilbert. Yeah, Jeannot Gilbert. He was a centerman, and he was my centerman, and he had been picked up because Boston had. In Hershey, he belonged to Boston, had been drafted to Pittsburgh. And I guess a couple days before the season, he asked him, where do you think you're going to play this year? And I think Jeannot made the wrong answer, because he says, well, wherever you want me to play. And they take Jeannot, and I asked Frank, who did I get traded for? From Pittsburgh, because he's going to, he said, well, you got traded for Jeannot Bear. He was my centerman. So I'm so happy to make it. But I actually slumped in my chair and was sad. I said, are you kidding? Because I had played for it with him 2 seasons. I scored 2 big years with him. And here I was going up, and he was coming back down. And that's how I got to the National Hockey League. I had to negotiate my way back there.
So you did it in a way that a lot of players don't do it. You did it yourself. That's
well. Yeah, I actually, it's the only nice thing about the career. I do have a lot of people to thank, a lot of great coaches, a lot of people I played with. But really, it was a tough go. All I ever did do was play in the NHL. And overcoming that and doing that was really, for me, that's why I used to call it the NHL was the National Heavens League. And only gods played there, you know what I mean? And I was no god. So it took me a few years, and then we finally got there, and then I actually did work on getting back as a coach. I went back to Lake Superior when I retired from the Blackhawks, and I went to school, coached with Ron Mason, and at Lake State. And then after about 3 years, I was married. I had 2 children, actually running out of money. So I offered to run some hockey schools and things like this, which I did for a long time. We started a hockey school, a Sioux Hockey Clinic, which I had organized because I was the oldest guy. You get to do all the work. But anyway, from there I went back into coaching in every league, and finally got a chance to coach the Pittsburgh Penguins. And
Sorry, Gene. We'll get into the coaching career in Pittsburgh in a second. I wanted to ask you, so there's a lot of great hockey players have come from small towns in Ontario and in Canada. You said you grew up and you were born in Sault Ste. Marie. A lot of great hockey players come from the Esposito brothers, Lou Nanne. What was it like growing up in a place, such a hotbed for hockey players?
Well, we were really fortunate because for me, my idol was my brother. His name is Johnny. He played in the 50s, in the 40s. He played junior in the OHL and was a big scorer there. And then he actually got a tryout, and he was at Toronto Maple Leafs camp. years, and then he played with Penis O'Flaherty. Wherever Penis O'Flaherty was coaching, my brother played, and mostly in senior hockey after that, because you make some money playing senior hockey those days. And then other people in the Sioux, obviously. I mean, if you look at the Sioux, we've got guys in the Hall of Fame that have been Ronnie Francis, like you said, the Esposito brothers, and we've had managers. We also have a manager now in the Toronto Maple Leafs. We knew his dad, for God's sakes. We played baseball with his dad. Well, go ahead and ask me another question because
Yeah. So talk to us about the coaching. You coach the Pittsburgh Penguins. Talk to us about maybe the difference in coaching back when you were with what some of the coaching styles nowadays.
Well, obviously, there's a big difference. Coaching, well, the coaches had they had control of your destiny in those days. And I think you knew who you were playing for. You played for one man. You look behind the bench today, you got 4 or 5 people you better please. And that, I don't know how to do it, to be honest with you. Most coaches in our day was one coach. Might have been an assistant coach, but he pretty well. You knew who the boss was, and unfortunately, a lot of them coached that way. Very disciplined. In fact, I can remember we had it when I was playing with the Pittsburgh Hornets. There used to be a play called the Pittsburgh Pass, and that was a pass that if you went up the ice and you dropped the puck, and the guy coming behind you didn't get it, and the opposing team got it, well, that you were going down to Pittsburgh, because that was the Toronto Maple Leafs farm team in those days. Frank Miller played there. Timmy Horton played a little bit. Everybody played in a few games or a few years in the American League in those days. So the coach really at that time, you had to please one guy mostly. And I think today there's a lot of people that you have to please. And but I must say, thank God for today's game. I think the players got obviously a better shape than some of the players in our days in the 50s and 60s. I like to talk about the fact that when they did expansion, the 1967, the first year of that expansion, I thought the players were so good in the American League that when they went up that first year, I can recall the year before Stan Mikita won the scoring with 87 points.
Right.
And the year of expansion, he won the scoring again with 87 points. It didn't go up that much. And the only reason was the guys who played against the original 6. We made sure we kept the score down. We worked hard, and there were a lot of good players in the American League that could play in the National League, and only because there were 6 teams they couldn't get there. I couldn't hear what you said.
Right. So there's a question I want to ask you that I asked. Ron Ellis has been on the show, and I was friends with the late great Johnny Bauer, and I always want to get this opinion of guys who I respect who played the game back in the day. So back when you played, or even in the 70s and 80s, if you hit somebody and you hit them hard, it was a good solid check. The game went on. There was a respect level. Not that there's not now, but to me, and I want your opinion on it, somebody hit somebody, and even if it's a clean check and it's a good player, somebody's jumping in to jump that guy. It's almost like you can't throw a real good clean check anymore. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I think, though, at that time, there was more, you kept it down for the most part. Through, I would say, in the 60s and some, for the most part, no one had helmets and stuff like that. You knew the danger. So for the most part, you kept your stick down. Unfortunately, a lot of guys, if the referee wasn't looking, you could get an elbow in the teeth or something like that. There was more hooking, more holding. And for me as a player, when I had a lot of bruises on the back of my legs from guys hitting me from, trying to catch me, it meant I was having a good season, because that meant people were behind me and hitting me with their sticks. So I would have, most of the bruises would be behind the legs, and more hooking, more holding. But there was more, most of the time, the guys that fought were the fighters. You know what I mean? In most cases, so everybody had a little more respect that way. And also when they fought, if a guy went down, very rare did you see someone hit him.
Okay. Right.
Very, very rare. It was almost like in the schoolyard, you had enough, that's it. And there was that mentality carried through. And like in this game, though, really, we're starting to see more hitting now. And I do think there's a big reason to have checking. Really, you can't just have two teams circling all night and no one getting in front of them. But the only beef I have now, I think, with the game is that I think there should be more checking, and clean checks really has to be respected. I mean, if someone hits someone with a good check, like you were saying, they shouldn't get a penalty if it's a clean check. I mean, but you can't. Years ago, though, unfortunately, guys were hitting 3 and 4 seconds later after you passed the puck. I can remember playing against Philadelphia, and when I was coaching, if you threw the puck in their zone, coaches were using the team block the going in.
Right.
And they allowed you to block so the defenseman could go back and get the puck. Now they've changed that rule, which is a great rule. They should have had that years ago, where it's icing, crosses the hash marks, and they call the automatic icing. I wish they'd have done that way long ago, because unfortunately, for a lot of defensemen back for the puck, there were a lot of concussions because of that.
Sure, guys would get hammered. Absolutely. Hey, Gene, I want to get in. Yeah, I want to get into the your Chicago Wolves days, and I know you're still with them. You've been with them a long, long time. So we have a mutual situation with your Chicago Wolves days. I played for Canada as a goalie for the sled team for 10 years.
Wow,
and Jeff Snyder was our coach, and Jeff's nephew, Dan, won a Turner Cup with you guys in Chicago. And as people know, he died in the car accident with Danny Heatley with the Thrashers. Talk to us about Danny Snyder, and what you thought of him and your days with the Wolves.
He was a really special person, Dan, and I actually wrote some things about him. Dan Snyder was the type of player that no matter what team he went to, after he was on that team, he became one of the better players, whatever team he was. Starting in junior, he had the junior B, and then he made junior A. And then when he came to turn pro, he actually was playing in Orlando. He's playing in the IL, and at that time. And then he came up, and sure enough, he came to us with the Wolves. And he's an unforgettable human being, and to see what happened to him, in a car accident. And I was fortunate enough, our whole team went to Maple, Ontario, where it's from.
Elmira. Yeah, your team
Elmira, pardon me. That's right, Elmira.
Yeah.
We went to Elmira, and we were there, and I'll never forget us all walking by the casket to the graveyard. And I'll never forget Dan Heatley walking in from the side of the altar on his crutches.
With his crutches,
That's right.
The Wolves were there. Owen Sound, the Wolves, Atlanta, and the sled hockey team were there in the church in small Elmira. Absolutely. He was just an unforgettable guy. And when I do my talks, I talk about Dan. I talk about the fact that, he was really never ever drafted. He was a walk
No,
on
that's
on
right.
almost every team, whether it was Owen Sound in the O, or Elmira Sugar Bears in the Tier 2, when it was Orlando or Chicago Wolves, or even the
Yes,
Atlanta Thrashers.
that's correct.
Everywhere was a not give up attitude.
That's right.
Talk to us about what it's been like for all those years with the American Hockey League Wolves, and where the team is now.
Yes, and regarding, I don't know if all your listeners or viewers know that when Dan got hurt, he actually played the end of the season the year before on a bad ankle.
Yeah.
He actually wasn't ready for camp, but he was getting ready, and he ended the season terrifically. And then he hurt his ankle, and he wasn't quite healed when he got into that car accident. So I mean, I've always said that's amazing. I've actually seen it with so many players. Some players, everything breaks right for them, and some players it never breaks right. It's very unfortunate. Hockey's a very difficult, beautiful game to play, but it's a very difficult game to stay in the business, to stay at the level you have to be at all times. I used to, the way I convince my players is that you don't have to be in the majors to be a major leaguer, and
Okay.
and that's what I mean is on and off the ice. And you might say Dan Snyder was everything that came after I met Dan Snyder. I met a lot of major leaguers in my career, and then played a game in the NHL. Some of them.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable. Hey, let's talk about our love that mine with the sled hockey, and your affiliation with the disability community in Chicago, because you do a lot. The first time we talked, I mentioned the name Brody Roybal, who is
Yes.
if not the best player in the world, top 3 in the world. Talk to us about what your affiliation with the disabled community.
Well, back in 1971, I retired in 71, and I was running hockey schools here in Chicago. I was trying to get professional or NHL players to become professional hockey instructors. In fact, I wrote up a whole thing, and I became the first professional hockey teacher at an ice rink. It was called Rolling Meadows, and I ran the hockey program there, and I ran the hockey schools. And so, because of this, I started the Sioux Hockey League when I was in Canada, so I knew a lot about it. And then I became involved with wheelchair hockey. I helped coach them, and I went on many games with them, and then wheelchair hockey went into sled hockey.
Right.
I think that was the progression. I'm not so sure if they have wheelchair. They still do in some cities have wheelchair hockey, and which is really impressive if you see that. But anyway, from there, Stan called me because we had a mutual friend, had a deaf boy. He was around 14. He kept getting cut pretty well because many coaches and teams didn't have the time or the willingness to have a deaf player on their team and stuff like this. So we got together. The fella put up all the money. He owned the Leon Sausage Company, and then Stan and myself and Irv we started the hockey school. In the first year, we had 30 boys, 35 boys. We would end the school every year with Blackhawk alumni playing against our senior team. In fact, one of the things we did is we started a freshman team, a junior varsity team, and then a varsity team. And that has that has now evolved into a beginners, junior, freshman, you might say. And then now we can, from our school, which has been operating 48 years now, my two friends, best friends, have passed on. And right now we have an executive. Most of our executive are former players that played for our varsity or for we actually helped pick the Olympic team, the deaf U.S. Olympic team now. And the head of our program now is a former student. And Kevin Delaney is the president.
Oh, yeah.
And I am an advisor to Kevin. And rather than go on the board, we asked Kevin to put more deaf boys on the board. And since then, we raised more money than we ever raised, even when we had other people involved, you know, and because the boys are so great examples, people contribute more to our deaf school now than they ever did.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts of a guy like Brody Roybal, who's
wow. I'll tell you what, he's one of our instructors. He comes on the ice with the deaf boys. He does all the drills with them. And you see, he's such an inspiration. Roy is every year he comes to the school. And what he does with the sled is amazing. I understand he's one of the top scorers. And he's not that old, right? He's about 28 or so, or 29.
I don't even think he's that old.
I think he's that old. I agree.
Yeah.
He's been doing it since he's 16 or 17, I believe. And we use him to coach the deaf boys, to let them see how difficult he has it.
Yeah.
And the one thing about the deaf boys, we've always said they had convenience. They never had a handicap,
right?
And we've made it that way, and they've become leaders. A lot of them are leaders wherever they're from.
I always say, Gene, when I lost my right leg 22 years ago, just below my hip, and I'm going to be 61 in a couple weeks, and I played for Canada from 40 to 50. When I go see kids that are losing their legs, I say to their parents, legs are overrated. They're really, in the grand scheme of things, you really don't need your legs. They're overrated. But I want to, before we get into to the end where I do my rapid fire, I just want to talk to you about, I want your opinion on a gentleman who was a massive part of the U.S. sled program, Jeff Sauer. He was like the god of Wisconsin, the Badgers, with Badger Bob Johnson. When he coached the American team to back-to-back worlds and an Olympic gold in Sochi, I got to know him pretty good. Talk to us about your thoughts on Jeff Sauer.
Well, without a question, a great human being. He came to our school, I'd say after about 8 or 9 years, and he did so well. He became our head man. He put the school together. He arranged for getting the hotels, and then he actually coached the Olympic team. He went to I believe he's won a gold medal with us. I know we've won silver, 1 gold, and a couple of silvers. Not exactly, these are all bragging things. I don't get up on those things. But anyway, he was instrumental in school going for so many years. Yeah. In fact, he brought a lot of instructors over. We always brought professionals over. Bobby Hull, they've all been at AHIHA, the American Hearing Impaired Hockey Association. Right. And he also brought a lot of his players over there and coaches. And when we lost him, there was a big hole in our program. And, huge. But he's pretty well brought Roybal over there. That's because he had met him with the sled hockey, and he brought him over. We can't say enough. We have an award for him that's given every year at our school, and no, we live. We earned our tradition, and we keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question before we get into rapid fire. What would you say? So if you had the opportunity to sit down with some young coaches getting into the game right now, with everything you've learned about the game, what advice would you give to somebody in their 20s, let's say, getting into this game?
Well, first off, you should start coaching, at a lower level, and move your way up. Just as you should as a player, you should, go at every level. I think the one thing I'm very proud of is that I coached just about at every level, and that really helped me. There's no question. And if you're going to make mistakes, you're going to make the mistakes at the lower level, and learn from them, because nobody's perfect. The next thing is respect the people that are playing for you. You earn their respect. It's not the other way around. Pretty well, we're forced to respect coaches when we were younger, and all through. And you saying about the difference. Well, I think first off, you respect the players you have, and then they will learn their respect by doing that. And worry about the player as a person. That's the most important thing you can do. The only reason I'm still in the business, and I'm so proud of the fact that I keep in touch with so many of the players, is because I wanted them to succeed. I really did, because I knew what it was for me to make it. And I knew what they were going through. I lived it. So I wanted them to get every opportunity. If the guy was a sluggard, didn't get on him, and that, you just eventually, he just never played, and then you let him go. But you don't kick a dead horse. You know what I mean? And I always felt when I was in the lower leagues, I was a guidance counselor. I found out a lot about my players. In fact, I can name some players. One's a dentist today, was a first-round pick, and we just sat down and had a talk. And I wanted to know how badly he wanted to play this game. Well, he went back to school and became a dentist. And I got a nice letter from his father thanking me for directing his boy, even though he was a first-rounder.
Right.
He's a dentist today, and he's a dentist for a longer time than you're a hockey player.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Gene, listen, I appreciate your time so much. I respect you, what you've done for the game. The guys that know you, that I know, have said nothing but the most unbelievable, respectful things about you. I'm going to end this on what I do call rapid fire. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I need you to give me rapid fire answers, okay?
Yes.
All right. So your favorite movie?
Well, guess what? The Godfather.
That's mine. That's my favorite movie.
Sure.
Unbelievable. Your favorite band?
You know what? I collected band records, and Stan Kenton. You would probably never heard of him ever.
No.
Stan Kenton. He was a great band leader. There was a Harry James, obviously.
Okay.
But I collected a lot of people and records. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Your favorite food?
Oh boy, you know what? My wife is such a great cook. Anything my wife cooks is my favorite food. My wife is outstanding. Yes.
Okay, that's good. How long have you been married?
Only 57 years, I think.
Oh,
yes.
That was my number, 57. Your favorite place in the world? Favorite place you've been in the world?
Jeez, wow. You know what? Gee, I would say probably Italy.
Okay.
Italy. I think
I love it.
I met so many people visiting when I was to the Italian Olympic team, and I coached the World Tournament and the Olympics with the Italian Olympic team.
We didn't even get into that, coaching the Olympics. Italy, the best part of my career was in 2006, where we won the gold in Torino and I got a shutout. So we didn't get
Torino. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we didn't get into your coaching career in Italy. Maybe we'll get you back on again. And we also didn't get into what Barry told me to talk to you about. You are an incredible artist.
No, I'm not incredible. I doodle. I am doodles. The only reason what happened is I used to do little doodles, cards for my family, and someone from a writer contacted me and then wrote a big article in the Chicago Tribune about my cards. And because of that, I had people wanting to purchase them, stuff like that. So that got me. I was recruited. I was scouted by a writer, and without me knowing, he put it in the Chicago Tribune, and that was since 1990. And I happened to buy a home from a former artist, professor, and I go downstairs, and there's our studio.
Okay. And then the last question.
That was it.
Sorry, the last question on the rapid fire is your favorite sport.
Yes. Yeah. The only sport where it takes every other sport to be able to play. You got to be fairly good in just about every other sport to play hockey. And I've done that too. I've had guys try to skate and play goaltender. Editors or TV personalities that weren't given coverage, I used to invite them to come down, put the equipment on, the skates and everything, and see what it was like. And boy, did we get coverage for that.
Yeah, it's an incredible game, absolutely incredible game. Listen, Gene, thank you so much for your time. It was unbelievable to get to know you a little better. Hopefully we'll have you back on again in the future.
Well, that's fine. Anytime you want to talk hockey, I'm available.
Thanks, Gene. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Wow. Gene Ubriaco, this guy, what a legend, man. He has been around hockey 8 decades, man. He's seen it all, from player to coach to mentor. I love, my dad is my hero. He taught me so many things. When you get somebody who is older than you and you respect, you just shut your mouth and open your ears to you guys out there. If you get a chance to talk to a legend, do yourself a favor, ask a question, and then shut your mouth and open your ears and listen. Respect and listen. This has been a fun time. Tuesday, the Rosen Report. We'll be back on Thursday. Not sure who's going to be on with me on Thursday yet. We'll let you know probably tomorrow. Get ready for Gooch Live tomorrow afternoon. Gooch is good. I talked to him today. Everything is really good. He is going to be ready for Gooch Live tomorrow. To Jordan in the studio, my producer, director, thank you for another great job. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Be smart. And God bless. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Rosen Report, sports like never before, with your host, Rosie. Brought to you by Gooch Live and Paramount Sports Management.